Hi, everybody. It's me again. Now you know my name, right? My name is Rosine, and this is Your Story, My Inspiration podcast. Today, we're shifting gears. I know we have been talking about genocide here and there. Today is a light-hearted message, and it's about life. I have a special guest, beautiful person here that I would like to introduce to you. I'm gonna let her introduce herself, then we take it from there.
My name is Marilyn Bond. I have been in the United States now for 57 years. That sounds like a really long time because it is. I came at the age of 13 and have been here ever since. And I am originally from the Dominican Republic, where my native language is Spanish. So I still have an accent, and that's okay. And I'm so happy to be here with you, sharing my life story.
Did you say how many years again?
57, a lifetime.
57 years old. So, years in US. Let me clarify that. I just said it wrong. 50 years in US. Great experience. I have like a book of wisdom here right now. I have a storage of wisdom. Let's do what? Let's just get like all the boxes out there and open and learn. Please learn. I am gonna say that I'm blessed to have her here because she's great. How about starting by your story? Like, what is your story here? What is your experience?
Well, I came to the United States when I was 13 years old, and I came on a plane from, as I said earlier, from the Dominican Republic. And I was sponsored by my father, who had no part in my life, but was able to do the paperwork for me. So when I came to the United States, I did have my legal residency. At the time was because I was a minor, I was able to get into the United States through that type of a sponsorship. Then I joined the PS 69 in New York City, which was my school. They're numbered, and I started there in 8th grade. I didn't speak any English at all when I arrived. I mean, I learned table and chair and door. And as I entered this school, I was coming from a very structured Catholic school where if you actually open your mouth to speak, you might get in trouble. And then joining public school in the city of New York, right off of 9th Avenue, I was in shock. My first experience was quite overwhelming because I was coming from the type of school I described into a very non-traditional school. And because at the time, they didn't know what to do with kids like myself, there were very few Spanish-speaking students and non-English speakers. They didn't know what to do with me. So they put me in the class with all of the kids. I got in trouble a lot. And I remember going on a field trip and thinking, these children are wild, because I came from a school that if you did anything inappropriate, you would be made to stand in the sun as a whole class. And ended up having to figure out how to speak to my principal, and said many years ago, I don't even remember how I did that, but I went to someone that listened and they moved me out of that class. They put me in a mainstream classroom at the time. And because I had such a strong educational background, I was okay for the next 3-4 years. So I remember sitting in 8th grade and kids laughing at me because my sentences were, the man is tall. When you are in 8th grade, you should have more complex sentences when you're speaking with your peers, right? But that was not my case. I then went on to finish that school and moved on to high school. And one of the things that I do want to share with you is that was so important in my life. My mother was a strong advocate for education, and she always said to me, Marilyn, you must go to school. You must work hard. You must learn, because the only way that you are going to make it in this country is having an education. So whoever is listening to this podcast, make sure that you're encouraging your children and your young adults and even yourself to go ahead and get an education. Some of the challenges that I faced coming into the United States and being a non-English speaker was my mother sent me to get nails at a hardware store. And I sat there a little frustrated, I'm not going to lie to you, because I could see what I needed, but I couldn't tell the men at the time what I needed because I didn't speak English. And that night I went home and I said to my mom and my sisters, we have got to change this. We are not going to be able to succeed in this society unless we really own our own learning. I wasn't going to get it at school because I was learning at an 8th grade level, but my language was at a kindergarten level, not even, and I needed help. And so about a year after being in the United States, we started going to an ELL class, English Language Learning class, in a little church down the street from our apartment, where there was a gentleman that was teaching the English classes, and he taught us through songs, and he used a lot of hands-on and lots of pictures to get us to learn English as a second language. I believe that even 57 years later, I am still learning English as a second language because almost daily I come across words that I don't know. But I'm going to take you back to when I first got here to tell you about a couple of other challenges that I tell as a story, because there are reminders of what I experienced when I first came to the United States. And one of them was I got lost on the subway in New York City. And I was terrified.
Sorry, I'm not laughing, but same thing happened to me. Go ahead, continue.
So I got lost and I got on the wrong train. We moved apartments and my mother walked me through. She took me to the subway station and showed me. But what she didn't realize that on the same track, there were 2 different trains that came by. So I got on the train thinking I'm going home, it's going to take me. And I would get out of the subway station and look around and I'm thinking, this is not where I live. And I would get back in the train, go back to my school, get back in the train. This is not where I live. And thank you, I give thanks to God that they had given me a subway pass. And so I was able to get back and forth in the subway without having to pay because I didn't have any money. My mother was working very hard, but we didn't have money at the time. We've always been in poverty and just lived very limited financially, right? So I didn't have the money to pay for subway stations or actually to buy food. And finally, about 3 hours after I got lost on my first train, somehow I ended up on the right train. And it took me home and I got out and I think, this is where I live. And I'm going to tell you an interesting story. Years later, I visited New York City and I understood that day that I was very close to my home, but I was it was almost like in a little mountain. And so I was at my apartment was at the top of the mountain and I had to go up these long winding staircases, but I didn't know that. And I learned that day that knowledge is power. Had I known that I was just a staircase away, I could have made it home after school. But by the time I got home, my mother was crying and worried. They had called her. It was a terrifying day for me. One of the things I also want to share is that my sisters have always been very comfortable living in New York City. And it was easy for them because people around that neighborhood spoke our language. And I wasn't. I wanted more. And so I challenged myself and moved out of New York City when I was 22 years old and decided I wanted something different for myself. So I moved to New Jersey. in a town that a lot of people spoke English as well, but we had more of a variety of languages. We had a lot of Filipinos, we have a lot of people from Haiti, we had a lot of people from Cuba. So I had a larger, broader experience of what the world was like. It wasn't all Spanish as it was in my neighborhood in New York, but I had to learn to survive. Shortly after coming to the United States, a year later, I moved into high school. And high school was interesting for me because I had to learn two things. One, what was my main goal here in the United States? What did I come here for? And one of the reasons my mother strived to teach us was perseverance. We needed to work really hard. And for us, we would work harder than other people did, because of the fact that I still didn't speak English very well. I just had been here a year. And, but in order to get to where other people that we met along the way, we had to really work hard. And one of the things we had to do at that time was sponsor my mother. So she did not come. She came with a visa. So my sisters and I had to figure out how to fill out all the paperwork for her to become a legal resident in the United States. And so at that time, you had to leave the country, and we went to Canada. And I was about 18 years old when my mother became a citizen. So I had already been here 5 years. By the time we did all her paperwork, my sisters and I, and we had to travel to Canada in order for her to go to the embassy there to fill out all her paperwork, and she became illegal.
Excuse me, that couldn't be done here in US? You just had it? Wow, that was a long time ago, I guess.
Yes, they don't do, no, we had to leave the country.
Wow.
And some people still have to leave the country, by the way. I have a friend, she's from Mexico, and she just got her residency about a year and a half ago. She had to go back to Mexico to do that.
Wow, interesting.
So, so it depends on the way you come to the United States, how you're able to do your legal paperwork.
Gotcha.
And so after that, I went into high school, and I have worked at a school for a very, very long time now in my career. But when I speak to people about, actually yesterday I had an experience where I was on a campus and I had a little boy crying because his mother didn't make it to Mother's Day celebration.
Oh.
And I held him tight to my chest and I said, "It's okay, buddy. You know what? My mother never went to one of my schools. Not because she didn't want to, because she was an advocate for me getting an education. But in high school, I don't even remember how I registered. But I know I went to this school called Lois D. Brandeis in the city of New York. If you look it up, it's a really bad school. But my goal at that time was to make it through high school with honors. And I did that. But I had to set aside my friends. I had to set aside many different things. But I was able to earn a full scholarship to a state university. I missed
Full
one day
scholarship?
to a state university, 5 years into being here in the United States. And I did it because I was committed to schooling. I was committed to getting a high GPA, which is like the average of your grades in high school. And I was committed to graduating from high school and going on to higher education.
You said with honors, highlighting things that people need to hear. So it's not about going to school only and just get the stuff done and graduate with honors, and you have like a goal to make sure that you are a student. When we say a student, those grades are really good. That led to a full scholarship. Are you getting wisdom here? Let's continue.
So for me, it was really important. I knew my mom would not be able to pay for me to go to college. I would not be able to pay for myself to go to college. I was a young woman. I actually ended up getting married very young before starting college, but I did go to the university and graduated. But in order for me to get the full ride scholarship, I actually had to get a really high GPA. And during high school, I missed one day the entire 4 years that I went to high school. And what I believe happened was my teachers, the people that were educating me, saw the drive that I had and saw that I wanted to be successful in this country. And because of that, they nominated me. Actually, I was nominated for 2 different scholarships, and I ended up going to what is called today Fashion Institute of Technology, which is a 4-year university in New York City. And I did very well. I graduated. Again, I didn't graduate with honors there. And this is one of the interesting things. You, as a new person in the United States, or somebody that's seeking to become part of the society, especially middle class society in the United States, for yourself and your families need to be aware of. In that particular setting, I had an English teacher, and he didn't understand that as a second language learner, being here in the United States 3 years, at that time in college, my first year in college, I had been here 5 years, and I could not speak English the way other students that were my peers could. And because of that, he gave me a D. And actually, it took me probably...
They don't understand.
He didn't understand that I could not think like Shakespeare, or like the New King James Bible, the King James Bible, or like writers of the 18th century. I just couldn't, because my language did not allow me to do that. That is why I became an advocate for children that are second language learners, and chose to work in the field to help them develop desires and goals to achieve what they wanted to, and still do so. Because he didn't understand that I was not able to graduate with honors when I graduated my first college degree. At this point in my life, I'm going to move up a little bit. At this point in my life, I have a bachelor's in education, and I also have a master's in administration. And so 8 years of the first 4 years, again, that D followed me. This is to me, is so fascinating,
right,
that D continued to follow me, even in my bachelor's degree, because I wanted to use the credits that I already had,
right,
in my first degree. So then I moved forward to my master's degree, and there I was able to graduate with honors because it didn't matter anymore. But it took me all those years to get rid of that one D that followed me for so many years, because my teacher in my first year of college didn't understand that I could not speak or write in the way that he wanted me to, because he didn't understand that I had just been here 5 years. And usually, if you have an understanding of language and how we learn English, it takes minimally 5 to 7 years to acquire academic language. I couldn't do that through the education I received in high school, because I was learning basic little kids English language. I was acquiring that type of language. And so having an understanding of language was really crucial for me. But my teacher didn't have that ability. So
not to interrupt you, but at university where I went for my master's degree, of course they said I'm an international student. I gotta go through that class. Guess what grade I got? For me, it was a C. And I was getting A's in other courses in class, because we study, we dig deep, and we know what we are going to school for. So I was getting A's, and Sir gave me C something, which was not great, by the way. And I didn't get mad, because I was like, these people who are giving me A's in classroom, they can see that I'm doing my best. If this teacher doesn't see that I'm coming from a different background, I'm doing my best, that's his problem.
Right.
But that was after crying a little bit, because I was like, I am trying. Should I go back home? It's not English is not English in here. So but that didn't put me down, but I'm grateful for all the people who were behind. Just Rosine, this is temporary.
It's
Rosine,
okay.
you can. It's okay. It's okay. Those people, they are somewhere. I'm grateful for them. Lauren, hi in Plymouth. So it requires to be like tough, and so
You have to develop that.
Yeah, because if you get stuck because of one person in this world who gave you a D, who gave you a C, then you're not gonna move forward because you are stuck. So I'm glad that you were able to suppress that D and go forward.